So hello everyone once again. Uh, we will continue our presentation with pellet boilers. We will speak mainly about Biopal mini boiler. Here I would like to show you also that we have a H4 Eco pellet boiler, basically the coal boiler with manual loading, which can be used with pellet burner, which is in the front of the boiler. Jarka told you about this little bit at the beginning of the presentation. This is how the boiler looks like in real time. Basically, you have one handle which holds the burner in the position, and then when you want to use the manual operation, you just remove the burner from the boiler and then insert the closing flap here, which is on the second handle here. So you have basically simple combi fuel boiler. On the left side there is a control unit, above it there is a display. It is V9 premium version of the control unit here. So why I am showing you this is that we recently, in the beginning of this year, certified this boiler once again because it was not in a eco-design standard, so we had to re-certify this boiler again. Right now it is in eco-design, so you can buy it from us with no problem and have a simple combi fuel boiler. Okay, and this leads us to our Biopal mini boiler, which we will talk about right now till the end of the presentation basically. So Biopal mini, the main idea of this boiler is that you have basically really small boiler which can fit to small boiler rooms. Right now you can see a picture from our test boiler room. So you have the Biopal mini with compact tank for 150 kilos of pellets on the left side, and on the right side you see small H4 Eco D boiler, gasification for boiler for wood. So the Biopal mini is 15 kilowatt in this case, and H4 Eco D is 16 kilowatt version. So you see that the boiler is quite small comparing the H4 Eco boiler, which is also really small boiler. Later we will talk about the differences between V9 Premium Biopal and the new Biopal Mini, so you can see exactly how small the boiler is comparing to V9 Premium version. Okay, so let's talk about the main changes on the boiler. Compared to V9 Premium, the hopper and also the boiler are smaller. Okay, so the idea was to create smaller boiler which can fit inside almost any boiler room, and to keep the quality of the V9 Premium Biopal, and in the same time to achieve better emissions, because in Europe there are really strict rules in some countries, and basically the eco-design standard is not enough to receive the government funding in some countries, so you have to have better emissions than class 5 or than class or than the eco-design standard. So with this boiler we achieved better emissions. The one big difference is also that the burner is in the front of the boiler. So right now it is actually easy to access the burner, to clean it, to see the combustion you know, you just open the door here and you can see the burner grate, you can see the ashes on the grate, and you can clean it in a few seconds without need to remove the burner from the boiler, which was the case with V9 Premium version. On the top there is a display and control unit. So below this orange cover there is a main control unit with all the connections, so all the accessories, all the temperature sensors, everything you can access from the front of the boiler. The display itself is you know, not installed on the top because of the protection, because during transport it can happen that you know, with the display on the top like this, the display could be damaged. So you will find the display inside the boiler, inside the ashtray, and you just put the display on the position like this when you install the boiler. Okay. Speaking of sizes, we have basically two sizes of the boiler. Smaller size is 11 and 15 kilowatt, and the bigger size is 21, 30 and 40 kilowatt. So within one size of the boiler you have different sizes of the burner. So the only difference between 21 kilowatt and 40 kilowatt version, for example, is of course different burner size. So you have same boiler body, but only difference is the burner size. Okay, so we have two sizes of the boiler. Speaking of hopper, pellet hopper sizes or types, we have, as you know it from before, compact version, which is right now currently for 150 and 225 kilos of pellets. We have external hopper, 220 and 350 kilos of pellets, and we have new tower version, basically hopper which is placed on the top of the boiler with sizes 40 and 60 kilowatts. So basically it should last for 1 day of usage. Of course the tower hopper is small, so the advantage of this version is that you can have small boiler which can fit easily almost to any boiler room. The width of the boiler here, this diameter, is it is starting from you know, I think 36 centimeters. So the width of the boiler is only 36 centimeters, so you can fit it almost anywhere. But the downside of that is that you have the smaller pellet hopper, but if the boiler is installed to new houses or houses that are renovated and with good insulation, I think it should last for 1 day with no problem. So you have to fill it each day. Okay. It is also important to say that with the compact version and external version you can place the hoppers on the left or on the right side. This is the same as with the V9 premium version of the Biopal, that you could always position the pellet hopper from the left or from the right side. So here you see installation of the Biopal Mini Tower, 15 kilowatt. This is version plus, so it is with accessories connected on the boiler, with ash remover box, with compressor cleaning. So this is how it looks like in real life. Now let's compare Biopal Mini and Biopal V9 Premium to see the differences. And we will start with dimensions. In this slide you see Biopal V9 Premium column and you see Biopal Mini column. Okay, and we have different powers. So this is, you know, standard V9 Premium 10-15 kilowatt, 20-30 kilowatt, and here the same type of boiler but Biopal Mini with powers 11, 15 and 20, 30, 40 kilowatt. And here I highlighted, for example, the width of the boiler, which in comparison with the V9 Premium, the width was 455 millimeters, and new Biopal Mini is 352 millimeters. And if we go here, we see the hopper version for Biopal Mini with the size of 150 kilos of pellets, which has the width 354 millimeters. So if you put this size together with the size of the boiler, you get these numbers. So standard compact installation is only basically 700 millimeters wide, and with the bigger boiler it is again less than 1 meter, 836 millimeters wide. So the installation is quite small, and same goes with depth or height of the boiler, but with the width it's really easy to see the difference. Okay, of course, because the boiler is smaller, the weight of the boiler is also, you know, significantly lower. Okay, so the boiler is the Biopal Mini boiler is smaller comparing to V9 Premium. And of course, if you install the Biopal Mini tower version with the pellet hopper on the top of the boiler, then it basically you have width only of the boiler. So the total width of the boiler and the installation is only 352 millimeters and 482 millimeters for bigger version. So it is really small boiler, and you can install it almost anywhere you want. Speaking of emissions, again we can compare on the left side Biopal V9 Premium and Biopal Mini, and I highlighted here the carbon emissions. So if you compare it with V9 Premium, for example, let's say 15 kilowatt version, the carbon emissions for V9 Premium were 143 milligrams, and right now with Biopal Mini we have 83 milligrams. Even better is Biopal Mini 11 kilowatts. Before with the V9 Premium we had 205 milligrams, and right now we have 96 milligrams. And higher power we have, better emissions we will get. So if you check here comparison between 20, 30 and 40 kilowatts, you see that, for example, 40 kilowatt boiler has carbon only 45 milligrams, and 30 kilowatt version has carbon emissions only 5 milligrams. Before it was 88. So you see that the emissions are better, and we will work in the future to reduce the emissions even lower. As you can see here, left bottom corner, for eco design standard and class 5 limit, the carbon is 500 milligrams and dust particles are 40 milligrams. So with, for example, again Biopal Mini 30 kilowatt, we have carbon emissions only 5. Limit is 500 for class 5 and eco design, and we have 20 milligrams of dust. Limit is 40. So you see we are way below the limit for eco design and class 5, but in Europe there are some countries where eco design and class 5 limits are not enough. We have to be even lower there. So we will continue to work on these emissions to have even better and better boiler in the future. Okay, but comparing to Biopal V9, we already achieved quite significant change, and also we have a significant increase of the efficiency of these boilers. So once again, for example 10 kilowatt Biopal V9 Premium, we had before 88.5% of efficiency. Right now with Biopal Mini we have 93.6, and the same goes with bigger powers. 15 kilowatt Biopal V9 Premium 91.4, and right now with Biopal Mini 93.5. So there is quite a big change in efficiency. Only 30 kilowatt boiler has a little bit lower efficiency than before, because before with Biopal V9 Premium we achieved 94%. Right now we have 93%, but still it's high numbers. So efficiencies are mostly increased, so you consume less fuel, less pellets, which is always good. Jarka also mentioned Biopal Mini Plus version. So basically all the accessories you already know from the V9 Premium version you can use for Biopal Mini, but all these accessories have improved design. So we still have ash removal system, compressor cleaning for the heat exchanger and burner, and we have also pump group with the mixing or thermostatic valve. But all these accessories are improved to make the operation of these better. Okay, so speaking of the control unit and electrical wiring, the control unit itself is on the top of the boiler. So you connect all the cables, all the temperature sensors here on the top, and then you move the cables from the top to the bottom. These plates can be removed, so you easily move the cables to the back side of the boiler and then cover the cables, protect them against heat and dust like this. Okay, and then of course when you buy the boiler you have to decide on which side the pellet hopper will stand. So in this case, in this picture, you see that the pellet hopper is on the left side, so you connect the cable for the feeder through here. So you can see cable connected here to the feeder, which goes through the side of the pellet hopper to the control unit. And then of course you connect also the cable of the burner here. So there is opening space here, and the cable itself is basically hidden behind the cover of the burner and behind the front cover of the boiler, and again goes up and it's connected to the control unit. Okay, like this. More about the installation on the 3D model of the boiler I will show you in a minute. There is also quick connection of the PVC hose right now. So right now you don't have to disconnect the PVC hose. You just disconnect the pipe. There are two pipes which connects together. So you just disconnect these two pipes, and you can easily remove the burner from the boiler, you know, for the maintenance or so on. Accessories, compressor cleaning. Here you see the assembly for the compressor cleaning in detail. In the manual there is step-by-step process how to connect the accessories, so you can just follow the manual, and you can connect all these fittings with no problem. So here in the left picture you see the compressor, and basically there are two hoses. Blue one is for the heat exchanger, and the orange one is for the burner cleaning. The orange hose goes like this to the top, and then behind the covers goes to the front, and it's connected to the burner here. Okay, there are solenoid valves connected at the back side of the boiler, and the control unit of the boiler operates these valves. So when you clean the heat exchanger or when you clean the burner, the valves will open and will release the pressurized air to the heat exchanger here and to the burner here. Second solenoid or third solenoid valve is located directly on the compressor, and this solenoid valve is responsible for the burner cleaning. Okay, so this is compressor cleaning. Because the heat exchanger of the Biopal mini boiler is smaller comparing to V9 Premium, we have less connecting tubes inside the boiler. With the mini there are just two connections like this here. Before with the V9 Premium we had 4 connections, so we save also some fitting material, and you know, it's easier to connect everything together. Electrical connection and the setup is simple. Inside the control unit there are 3 outputs named compressor 1, compressor 2 and compressor 3. Compressor 1 is dedicated for the burner cleaning, and compressor 2 and compressor 3 are dedicated for heat exchanger cleaning. Here I have a mistake. This is not burner cleaning, this is the heat exchanger cleaning. And you can activate the cleaning function inside the fitters menu here. So inside the fitters menu you will find compressor 1, compressor 2 and compressor 3 functions which can be activated, and here down you see basically how the cleaning is performed. Cleaning is set from the factory to clean only when the boiler is switched off. So basically the boiler is heating, and when the temperature of the boiler or the temperature inside the room is reached, the boiler is switched off, and then during the extinguish phase of the boiler the compressor will be activated and will clean step by step the burner and the heat exchanger. So to explain these pre-selected values from the factory, there is a total cleaning time which is usually 1 or 2 minutes, bigger power, longer heating time, and then you have opening time for the solenoid valve. So within 1 minute the solenoid valve will open for, let's say, 2 seconds, then it waits 25 seconds for the compressor to build the pressure up again, and then it will again open for 2 seconds, and it cycles like this for 1 minute. The last function is cleaning delay or cleaning interval, let's say. Usually it's 0 hours, which means that the cleaning will be performed only during the extinguish phase of the boiler, not during operation. If you activate the cleaning interval and you select here, for example, 20 hours, as you can see for the bigger power, there is 20 hours pre-selected from the factory, and that means that each 20 hours of operation the boiler will switch off and the burner cleaning will be performed also during operation. The reason for that is that, of course, with bigger boilers, with bigger burners, you create more ashes, and the ashes should be cleaned more often. Okay, so I think there is no need to change these values. Of course, we always say to the customer, please check the burner, please check the heat exchanger, let's say once a month, to see if everything is clean. If they see more ashes inside the heat exchanger or inside the burner, then of course you can increase the cleaning time here to make the cleaning longer, or you can select here a shorter period of time, so the cleaning will be performed during operation more often. Okay, so this is how the compressor cleaning works. And now the ash removal system, which looks like this. Basically, ash removal system is almost the same as on the V9 Premium. There is one difference. In front of the boiler there is a connection between the spiral which moves the ashes from the boiler to the ash container, and the spiral itself right now is connected, so it holds the position, because before the end of the spiral was not connected. It was basically laying on the pipe here, and because of the movement of the spiral, there have been noises coming from the ash removal system when it was in operation. So right now the spiral is connected, which means that it doesn't touch any surface inside the boiler, and there are no noises because of that. Okay. Yeah, so this is simply ash removal system explained. You know, the ashes inside the ash container are pressurized, so it is not only about the volume of about the liters, about the size of this ash container. The spiral pushes the ashes inside and pressurize them inside. So if you use ash removal system, I think, you know, for let's say 4 or 5 months, you are fine to not clean the boiler, and then after 5 months, let's say, you remove the ash container and clean it. Of course, again, it depends on the quality of the combustion. So if you have not good quality of the pellets, you will have to clean probably more often. Connection is simple. Inside the control unit you have output called de-ashing, and then again inside the filters menu you have a function called ash removal system, and the setup which is done in factory is also really simple. There is an operational time, usually 5 or 10 minutes, and then there is a waiting time, 10 hours, or, you know, with bigger powers you have a little bit shorter waiting time till the ash removal system is again activated. So it works on timer basis or in intervals to remove the ashes from the boiler. As we mentioned, we have also a tower version which is also in plus version or plus type of setup, so you can still choose even with the tower version or compact version or with the external hopper. It doesn't matter. Every single setup can have the plus version, which means that the ash removal system, auto cleaning, and pump group with thermostatic or mixing valve are already installed on the boiler by us in the factory. You can still buy these accessories separately. Okay, so you can still buy this standard boiler without accessories, or you can buy accessories as an option and install it by yourself in the boiler room with no problem. The plus version basically means just that we install these accessories for you in our factory for additional price, but you can anytime install these by yourself. Okay, so this is the plus version of the boiler. This is a brief information about how to install the tower hopper version, but I think we will explain this a little bit more on the 3D model of the boiler, because it is quite easy to explain you know how everything is installed. So give me a second, I will again open my 3D model here and we will continue with the presentation. As you can see, again, I have two boilers here. On the right side, this is Biopal Mini 20 to 40 kilowatt in compact version with the compact tank. This is the biggest compact tank we can offer you, 225 kilos of pellets. And on the left side, we have Biopal Mini Tower, in this case 11 and 15 kilowatt. Both boilers are with all the accessories, so there is a pump group, there is also heat exchanger and compressor cleaning, and there is of course also ash removal system. Okay, so we will start with the compact version of the boiler, and then we will continue, okay, with the tower version. So give me a second, I will remove right now the tower boiler and we will talk about this boiler. So now I will try to explain you the most important things you should keep in mind when you install the boiler for the first time. As I said, the pellet burner is in the front. Okay. In this case, from the factory, the hinges for the doors are on the right side. So that means that you also open the door with the burner to the right side like this. Okay. But you can choose, if you want, to change the hinges, change the position of the hinges from the right side to the left side. There are here two openings which are for the hinges, so you can remove the hinges from here and install them here. Okay, it is quite simple to do that, and then you can have these doors to be opened not to the right but to the left. The reason for that is, of course, when you have small space in the boiler room, maybe here you have a wall and you basically have no space to open the burner like this, then you can always change the position of the hinges and open the doors to the left side. You can even open the doors to the left side with the pellet hopper on the left side as well, but in this case you have to move the pellet hopper a little bit back. Okay, so there will be like gap between the boiler and the pellet hopper, maybe 15 centimeters. You have to move the pellet hopper to the back, and then you can open the doors at least 90 degrees to the left side where the hopper is. Of course, the standard installation is like this, that the hopper is on the opposite side where the hinges for the doors are. Okay, so this is the standard installation, let's say. If you decide to install the hinges on the left side, you have to also change position of the closing handle here. Okay, closing handle for the doors is of course on the left side. So when you change the hinges on the left side, you basically remove the closing handle, you open the plate here, you remove this plate from the burner cover, and then you install the handle for the opening on the opposite side. So basically here you have a handle for the door, and here you have hinges. Here and here you have two hinges, and the doors open to the left side. Last thing you have to change is this closing mechanism. This is where the doors are closed. So again, you remove this profile, this part, and install it on the opposite side to these two holes. Okay. So you install these right here. Yeah, so this is how the change of the doors is managed if you really want to change the type of the opening to the left side. As I said, from the factory it's on the it's opened to the right side. Now about the feeder installation and cable installation. When you buy the boiler, the feeder itself is not installed inside the pellet hopper. It is placed inside the hopper, but you will select the position. You will choose the position where the feeder outlet should be. If you see closely, there are again openings covered by plate here and here. And this is again for the outlet of the feeder. So again, first of all, you have to think about the layout of the boiler. You have to think where the boiler will be positioned, if there is a space, or where will be space for the doors to be opened. And you have to think about the pellet hopper, on which side, left or right, the pellet hopper will be placed. Okay, so let's say that we place the pellet hopper like this on the left side. So we don't have to change the position of the hinges, the doors will be open to the right side. And speaking of the feeder, we remove this plate here. Okay, same plate as here is here, so we remove the cover plate for the feeder outlet here, so we can position the feeder, as you can see on this 3D model, to the right side. Of course, we choose always the side where the boiler is. If the boiler is on the right side of the pellet hopper, we choose the opening for the feeder outlet on the right side. If we would place the boiler on the left side, then we would use the opening cover, or we would remove the opening cover for the feeder on the left side where the boiler is. Okay, so in this case we have feeder here, so we remove the plate, position the feeder inside this opening, and then we can connect the PVC hose to the burner. What is really important, make sure that the PVC hose is as tightened as possible and as straight as possible, to make sure that no pellets are or get stuck inside this PVC hose. Okay, all pellets have to fall down inside the burner, you know, if there would be, you know, angle like this of the PVC hose, the pellets would probably stay in the PVC hose and the boiler would not function properly. Okay, so maybe you would have to cut a little bit the PVC hose to make it as straight as possible without any bend. Because inside you have a dust from the pellets and you have to make sure that the dust is not making the pellets, you know, get stuck inside the PVC hose. So install it as straight as possible. Speaking of cabling, when you receive the boiler, you install the display. The display will be hidden inside the ash container, so you just, with 2 screws, you install the display on the top. And when you remove this orange cover on the top, below there is this main control unit, and there will be 2 cables. There will be cable for the feeder, and there will be cable for the burner, okay, to connect the burner with the cable here. So again, it is not connected because you are the one who will decide where the pellet hopper will stand. If the pellet hopper stands on the left side, of course the cable for the feeder will go through the boiler to the pellet hopper to the left. Okay. Again, if the pellet hopper will stand on the right side, there is again opening here protected by small cover. So you just remove this cover, position the pellet hopper on the right side, and move the cable for the feeder to the hopper through this small opening, which is on both sides prepared for you, so you will choose. And speaking of cable for the burner, again the cable is hidden here, and the cable goes behind the front cover to the bottom, and then it's connected to the burner. And again, it's up to you to decide on which side the pellet, the burner cable will be, you know, installed. So again, from the factory, the hinges on the right side are on the right side, so the cable for the burner should be, you know, moved through this opening where the hinges are. As you can see, both openings are covered from the factory, and it's up to you to open the correct hole for the burner cable, and it depends on the hinges. Okay, so when the doors are opened to the right side like this, you will choose the right opening for the cable to connect it to the burner. Okay, if the doors would be opened to the left side, hinges would be here, so you would use this opening here to move the cable from the top of the control unit behind the front cover, you know, move it through the hole here and connect it here. So hope this makes sense. This is installation process which you have to perform. Speaking of burner itself, there is one change on the burner, and this is position of the fan. Before with V9 Premium we had fan from below, from the bottom of the burner, but because the Biopal mini boiler is small, and as you can see below we have here the ash container, we had to move the fan position on the back side of the burner. And the second additional feature of the burner is this fast closing mechanism. So basically right now you can easily disconnect the pipe and disconnect the PVC hose like this with no issue. You don't need to remove the PVC hose itself right now from the top pipe, you know. So it is easier right now to disconnect the PVC hose. Next thing is that when you start the boiler, of course there is a combustion process inside, and the doors are designed that you cannot open the door fully during operation, and because there is a flame inside, and you want to make sure that no flame goes out of the boiler. Okay, so we achieve this safety by two things. First of all, of course, when the PVC hose is connected and you want to open the door, it allows you to open the door just a little bit, because the connection here between the feeder and the burner with the PVC hose is tight, and you basically cannot open the door fully. And the second thing is that, you know, inside or behind the door, when you try to open the door, basically you can open it something like that, okay, not more. Inside there is a plate, metal plate, connected here on the side of the door, which basically does not allow the burner to be opened fully. So you can open the door like this during combustion to see the flame. You can still check the flame, you can see the color of the flame, you can see the size of the flame. So manually you can adjust you know, the combustion, but in the same time, because there is a protection plate, you cannot open the door fully. To open the door fully, you have to first disconnect the PVC hose, then move the protection plate up, and then you can open the door, check the burner, clean the burner, and then close it again. So there are safety features regarding the opening of the door during operation to make sure that nobody will open the door during combustion. There is small plate, cover plate on the top here against heat, so there should be no heat, you know, going below the cover, possibly damaging the control unit. So that's why there is small protection here. And with the pellet cover, pellet burner cover, all the cables are hidden inside. Even the cables for the heat exchanger cleaning or compressor cleaning or other cables which are moved through these shafts to the back side of the boiler, everything is hidden, so the design of the boiler is not damaged, let's say. Okay, speaking of the cables, as I said before, there are two shafts on the top of the boiler which can be removed, and through these opened spaces you move all the cables from the control unit to the back side of the boiler, and in the same time you can move the orange PVC hose for the burner cleaning, which goes from the compressor to these opened holes to the opening here, and then it goes to the front, again behind the front cover, and to the burner. So you see no connecting hoses or cables anywhere, everything is hidden. Speaking of the compressor cleaning, as I said, we have these solenoid valves. Here you can imagine that, you know, the compressor stands. We have really silent compressor right now. It makes, of course, some noise, but in general, you know, the compressor is really silent. So from the compressor there is a connection hose which goes to these two solenoid valves, and then it goes to the heat exchanger. Because the heat exchanger itself is really narrow, really small sized, then basically the compressor cleaning is really efficient. It basically cleans with these two pipes here. There are nozzles inside these pipes, so it cleans the space between these smoke coolers, between these turbulators. You know, these are the smoke coolers where the water is, and these turbulators are cleaned from inside by the compressor cleaning. So if we check the side of the boiler and open the boiler, you see that the heat exchanger is a little bit different comparing V9 Premium Biopal. The flame goes from the burner to the top here, and there is a horizontal space, and then it goes down, up, and to the chimney. This horizontal space is can be cleaned manually from the cleaning doors from the top here. We have even a special cleaning tool which can quite easily move the ashes from this horizontal plate, but also the nozzles for the compressor cleaning cleans this horizontal space. Okay, so it automatically cleans not only the horizontal space but also you know, space between each turbulator here. And because the heat exchanger itself is like 50% less bigger, or it's 50% smaller compared to V9 Premium, the efficiency of the cleaning is really high. So it is really simple, easy to clean, and it is efficient. Of course, it depends on the quality of the combustion, quality of the pellets, but if the ashes are dry, if the combustion is good, you know, for example, with our boiler, we have 15 kilowatt Biopal mini boiler in our boiler room, and we, you know, didn't clean the heat exchanger for 6 months with this compressor cleaning. Of course, in the manual there is a section about cleaning, and it is written there that customers should check the burner. He should check the heat exchanger at least once a month to make sure that that everything is clean. Of course, if the cleaning of the boiler is not efficient enough, then of course question is if the combustion and quality of the pellets is good, or you can even make the cleaning intervals more often to make sure that it cleans properly. But because of the small size of the boiler, the cleaning with 8 bar pressure is really efficient, and there is no moving mechanism inside which could be damaged by heat. It's just air going to the boiler. Then of course all ashes drop down to the ashtray. The ashtray itself is divided to two sections. This is the main ashtray, and here we have a secondary ashtray. So both ashtrays can be, of course, removed. If you use ash removal system, in our case, we have ash removal system with the ash box here in the front of the boiler, and with the motor moving the spiral inside to remove the ashes from the boiler. In this case, you remove standard 2 ash containers which are inside the boiler. You also remove this bottom plate, and then you see that the boiler is basically ready to be used with the ash removal system. You just install this spiral with the motor, and in the front you have an ash box basically. Of course, motor is again connected to the control unit, so it is operated by control unit. But with the V9 Premium, this section was separated. You had to install new ash container with these plates directing the ashes to the spiral. Right now with Biopal Mini, everything is inside the boiler, so you just removed this plate, and then the boiler is ready for ash removal. Of course, when you install the spiral with the motor and with the ash box. Don't forget about one important thing. When you use ash removal system, you have to close this open space, because with the standard ashtrays, the ashtrays closed this opened space, so all the air would go standard way to the top here, and then through the heat exchanger to the chimney. But when you use the ash removal system, you remove the ashtrays, and here you hang additional plate which covers this opened space. Okay, so it's in the package with the ash removal, and you just hang the plate to these two holes, so installation is really simple. So that's the ash removal system. Okay. Of course, we have a pump group. Pump group is fitted with the pump, and in this case thermostatic valve, or you can choose the motorized mixing valve, and these are the outlets and inlets for outcoming and incoming water from the system. You see installation is really simple and saves you quite a lot of time. So that's the brief installation information about the Biopal compact version. And to compare it with the tower version, I would like to say a few things about the tower version. With the tank on the top, you have to do few things when you install it. Okay, the tank itself, the pellet hopper itself, is only placed on the boiler. Okay, so there is no connection, it is just placed on the top of the boiler. But before you put the pellet hopper on the top of the boiler, you have to first remove the orange plate which is above the cleaning door. And the reason for that is that you want to be able to clean the boiler manually even when the pellet hopper is installed on the boiler. So on each side, left and right, we have this cleaning lid which can be again removed, and then you have quite easy access to a heat exchanger. You can remove this cleaning door and you can manually clean the heat exchanger without need to remove the pellet hopper on the top. Of course, when you use the automatic cleaning with the heat exchanger, everything is cleaned automatically inside and you don't have to get inside the heat exchanger for manual cleaning too often. Okay, so when you install the pellet hopper, you just put it on the place. From the back side there is a motor. Here we have a motor which moves the spiral which is inside. So this spiral moves the pellets from the hopper to the pellet burner, and of course you have to connect the power cable to the motor. So again, when you buy the boiler, the cables are hidden inside the control unit on the top of the boiler, and you basically move the cable from the control unit through this shaft to the back side of the boiler and then connect the cable to the motor here. Okay. In the front there is again a hole for the main power button. There is main power switch here, so to have access to switch on and off the boiler, you have a place here to be able to reach the main button. And last thing about the tower version of the pellet hopper is that when the boiler is in operation, the main lid on the top of the hopper needs to be always connected, and always placed on the top of the hopper. The reason is, of course, inside the burner you have a fan, and when you open the lid here, the air from the fan can go through the burner to the PVC hose and to the pellet hopper, and you don't want that, of course. There is no risk for burning inside the pellet hopper because there is open space between the burner and the pellet hopper, but you will probably overheat the burner if the lid is not spot on the right position. Then it will slowly, the hot air which goes here will slowly overheat the burner, and the boiler will stop with overheating message. So tell the customer and make sure that the lid on the top is always positioned. Okay. It is also important to make sure that these boilers with the tower hopper are installed properly in the boiler room where there are small, let's say, power losses. So I think this boiler will be quite good for new houses with small boiler room where the needed power is really low. These new type of houses with good insulation, they have like 6 kilowatts power need. So for the new houses or well renovated, insulated old houses, I think this boiler will be good enough, and the pellet hopper should last, I think, for 1 day with no problem. But of course, if you install this boiler to some old house where the boiler will run only at maximal power, then there is a possibility that you will have to fill the pellet hopper twice a day. So if the power is judged properly, then I think the pellet hopper will last for 1 day with no problem. So of course you have a small boiler, 36 centimeters wide. This is advantage. Disadvantage is that you have to fill the pellet hopper once a day to make it work properly. Okay, so but otherwise, really again, same type of operation with same control unit installed on the left or right side. The cable from the display to the main board is simply moved from the display, and it goes here to this opened hole, and below there is a control unit of the boiler. So this is Biopal Mini. Again, all other stuff is the same as on the compact version. Speaking of the doors opening, the burner, and so on. Yeah, so speaking of the burner, last thing I think I didn't mention is the difference on the burner in the front, because I told you that the boiler has a little bit better emissions, and the reason for that is also because we implemented secondary air here. So normally, that inside the burner grate there are holes for the air to create good combustion, and right now we have also secondary air which comes from the top, which makes the burning process better. The pellets are burning at higher temperatures, because we basically push more oxygen inside, because there is more holes for the air from the bottom and from the top. The speed of the fan is a little bit higher if you would compare it with V9 premium boiler. The V9 Mini, the Biopal Mini version, has a higher speed of the fan to make sure that the combustion process is the best. And speaking of the speed of the fan and control unit and combustion, the last section of the presentation will be control unit, where I would like to show you what is different inside the control unit of the boiler, again comparing to V9 Premium. So let me change the screen right now to show you control unit of the boiler. Just shortly, I would like to say that we have one software for all the versions of the pellet boiler. So we have one software, and inside there is a setup for Biopal V9 Premium. There is a different setup for V9 Mini, and there is different setup for V9 Mini Tower version, because different version has different hopper type, and different hopper type with different feeders create different dosages of the pellets. So each type has its dedicated factory settings with different feeding times and so on. So for people who already installed our boilers, in the menu there is function called first start, and this is where you basically select standard features, standard settings of the temperatures and other important parameters, and one of that is power selection. We will not go through full first start of the boiler because it takes time, and I will show you faster way how to select the power. So if you go to the service menu and select the password, which is 5164, it will allow you to select the power of the boiler directly without needing to go to the first startup of the boiler. Of course, when you start the boiler for the first time, you should go through the first startup of the boiler in a standard way. This way is just simplified to to show you faster how you can select the power. And you see that before there was only V9 Premium version, and inside there was selection from 10 to 200 kilowatt. In this case it's 100 kilowatt maximum, because I have a little bit older version of the software, but basically V9 Premium is boiler from 10 to 200 kilowatt. Right now there is new selection for Biopal V9 Mini and Biopal V9 Mini Tower. Okay, and each selection will save different values inside the service setting. It depends on, of course, on the power of the boiler and type of the boiler. So in our case, let's say we have Mini Tower, and let's say that we have 30 kilowatt. Okay, we have Biopal Mini Tower 30 kilowatt. Okay, exit, and now it will save factory settings only for this boiler, for 30 kilowatt V9 Mini Tower version of the boiler. So it's up to you to select the power and type of the boiler properly. And right now in the service menu, if we access the service menu with standard password, we have pellet settings, and inside the pellet settings we have operational parameters, and then we have min power and max power. And here we have different setup for feeder operation and fan speed. So let's say we go for max power of the boiler, and we have max feeding work, and we have 6 seconds of operation for 30 kilowatt boiler, and then we have 8 seconds waiting time for the feeder. So it cycles like this: 6 seconds operation, 8 seconds delay, 6 seconds operation, 8 second delay, and then we have maximum power of the fan, which is 60 kilowatt. Okay, and then of course we have selection or setup for minimal power. So these two parameters you can adjust, but from the factory there is this setup. And the setup depends on the selection you will manage during the startup of the boiler, on the power of the boiler you will select, and it depends also on the type of the boiler you will select. If you want to make sure that the power of the boiler is always spot on, that it is always the power you want, you can always perform feeder calibration in feeders menu. So in feeders menu you have feeder calibration, password is 1001, and when we activate the feeder calibration we can start the waging process, and this basically starts or activates the feeder, which right now supplies the pellets for 5 minutes. Then the feeder will stop, and before you activate this function you place some plastic bag below the output of the feeder. You activate this waging function and then wait 5 minutes till the pellets will drop down to the pellet sack, and then you weight the pellets. When you know the weight of the pellet, you go here to the weight fuel function and you basically input the weight of the pellet you measured. You hit OK, and then your control unit knows, how fast or how many pellets your feeder is able to supply in 5 minutes of time, and from that the control unit is able to calibrate the feeder for the power you selected. So you basically make sure that the power is always on the selected value. So when we selected 30 kilowatt and we activated feeder calibration right now, we are sure that the power or the pellet dosages correspond to 30 kilowatt of the power. Of course, when you start the boiler for the first time, I always recommend to wait a little bit for the flame to adjust and then check the flame physically, because you want to make sure that the flame is all right, that the combustion process is all right. As I said before, you cannot open the door fully, but you can open the door a little bit to check the flame. So open the door by, I don't know, 5-6 centimeters to see the flame inside, and if the combustion is all right, if the color of the flame is orange and the flame size is all right, then no problem, you can leave the boiler room without any adjustments. But if the flame is too small, too bright, let's say, or if the flame is too dark, too smoky, let's say, then you can adjust the flame inside the menu, filters menu, coefficients. So in coefficients you have fan correction lower, which is function for minimal speed, for minimal power correction of the fan, and here upper correction fan is for maximal power. So when we wait for the boiler to reach maximal power, and for example we see that the speed, that the flame itself is too short, too bright, too aggressive, we can decrease the maximum speed of the fan to make sure that the flame is not too aggressive. Okay. At the other hand, when the flame is too dark, smokes, then we need to of course increase the speed of the fan. If you want to see the minimal power, you can force the boiler to work only at minimal power. If you push this function, then wait 5 minutes, then you can check the minimal power flame and do the same correction for minimal for fan correction lower for min power of the boiler, again in the same way. Then of course after your corrections, don't forget to deactivate this function so the boiler operates again in a normal way. If we go right, there is a min feeder coefficient and max feeder coefficient, and in the same way you can increase the speed, the dosage of the pellets for maximal power, and you can increase or decrease the dosage of the pellets for minimal power. So again, when you think that the flame is too big for at maximal power, you can decrease the number of pellets that are coming in, wait a little bit longer to see the difference. And in the same time, when the flame is too small, you can increase the number of pellets so the flame is a little bit longer. If it of course depends if you manage to perform the feeder calibration. If you did the feeder calibration, then the feeder coefficients are not needed anymore, because you basically are sure that the feeder calibration is supplying right amount of pellets for the power you selected. So then of course with the feeder calibration activated, you just adjust the speed of the fan to make sure that the flame is not smoking. Okay, again, if the flame is too big and smokes, then you need to probably decrease increase the speed of the fan for maximal, and probably also for minimal power a little bit. Then check the flame, open the door a little bit to see the flame, check if it's all right. If it smokes, you can increase the speed of the fan a little bit more again. If it doesn't smoke, if the flame is like orange color, then you know that the combustion process is all right. Okay, so as I said, we have one software for all the types of the boilers right now. You just select the type of the boiler you have during the first startup of the boiler. So that's the short explanation of the control unit. I think we finished the main training. After a short break, there will be questions and answer section. So if you have some questions, stay with us, and we can discuss questions you will have about any boilers you saw today. So thank you very much, and see you soon.